Welcome to The Third Side Convo with your host, Bob Phipps. Your panelists today are Ted Johnson, Don Thomas, Larry Haber, and Ed Reason. And now, your host, Bob Phipps.
Oh, gosh, it's so great to see people from around the world. I happen to be in England right now on a vacation, and we're going to be talking about Project 2025. What the heck is it? Kind of a mystery a little bit. It's been out there around the internet. It's actually been around a long time, as Don was talking about a few minutes ago. It pretty much is the Republican or a proposed Republican platform put out by a group called the Heritage Foundation, which is certainly a right-leaning foundation. I thought that one of the things that we ought to do on the show is kind of look at what both parties are saying. So tonight it's going to be the Republicans. We're going to see what those conservatives are up to. And I know that Ted and Don are itching to throw some things out there. But that's what we're going to do. Now, as you know, we use a term called Uber discourse to talk about any subject. And why we do that is we realize that we have to take the politicians out of this thing. I mean, the politicians cause most of the confusion, the problems, the division within our country. So if we can just agree to not talk about any specific politician, we're not going to talk about what they said and what they did, then we can maybe get somewhere. So tonight we're going to be talking about Project 2025. So I'm going to go on and start on the left with this. So we're going to start on the left, and Ted or Bart Starr, I think he's shown up there. Ted is going to kind of lead us out and just give us some opening thoughts on things that you want to talk about. And what I want y'all to realize here, it's made up of a ton of different things, of which some of those things we could spend a whole show talking about. So we're going to have some fun trying to just zip through it and see what we got, see where we agree and where we don't. So Ted Johnson from Wisconsin, let's start out with you.
Well, it's a very simple but very complex piece that has four main tenets. Project 2025 basically wants to allow a former president, if he's reelected, to wield his power to systematically eliminate federal agencies, consolidate presidential power, and make Christianity central to the government policy. There's other issues too, like he wants to, almost mandate that a man and a wife are the only people who can get married. The policies include such driven social policy as to a man and a woman being central to our culture. And I just want to know how they're going to enforce all this. I think it's unenforceable. I think actually many of the proposals and provisions of the policy would be slammed into court so fast it would make even Clarence Thomas head spin.
Well, we need more for the attorneys to do around in our country, don't
Absolutely.
we? Ed,
We have a lot more, yeah.
Ed, would you like to respond to any of those, or just kind of give me your opening thoughts on this, and then we can jump back into the specifics?
Yeah, I agree with what he said. A lot of the premise in that is true, but he said he wants to do it. And that is assuming that a particular person wants this agenda, and that's not the case. This is a group that's trying to push the agenda forward for the Republicans. Why I agree with a lot of the tenets. I do. Some of them are way off. And like anything, whether it be maybe even a DEI type of a thing, there's a lot of tenets there that I really can agree with, but they're trying to push it through. So this is not a new procedure or plan for anyone. It just happens to be on the right this time.
The only thing I'd say is a quick comeback to that is like more than 40 people who had written pieces or co-authors of the policies came out of the former president's administration.
Yes.
Right.
And
I think there are like 300 people. I think there are like 300 people that contributed to this. The thing's 900 pages, and I think the first 80 of them are people's names and their bios and stuff.
Exactly.
Don, give me your opening thoughts.
Right.
Don,
I think one of the scariest things about it is like they plan to hire like 500 loyalist lawyers to be on the administration. They're doing so you start getting that kind of many lawyers, you're trying to vet, you're trying to get a lot of the legal stuff done when you got that many lawyers, and that's the scary part of it. But the also part of it is for the little guy, and this is the way in America it is. America has changed. This is going back into the future, back into the past. America has changed, so this is kind of taking us backwards instead of taking us forward, and that's the problem that I have with it.
Okay. All right, Larry. You got to listen to the others. Now let's hear your opening.
The first thing about this is it's not the candidate himself or that party for the candidate that is putting this platform out. And so I don't think that this should be fair game for attacking everything that the Republicans and particularly Trump are up to. So I have a problem with the premise. I know.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that one.
You know, we got a lot of people. You get a lot of people talking about you were just saying that the lawyers. That's
right.
Always going to be a problem, no matter which side is. The left has been doing that for a long time with the Supreme Court, or trying, and so forth. So this is not anything new. The new thing about this is that it's making it seem like it's so radical. And if you go back to, and I'll give you a great example, Javier in Argentina. He has stripped those departments down to nothing, working great.
Exactly.
Like I said, those are things that are done on the courts on the side. I don't think government needs to be involved in that. That's not their business.
There's another issue about when you talk about this is just a man and woman, but what about the mandate of they're trying to deport all these people out of this country? How are you going to find out who's illegal and not legal? You're going to have to go through some kind of stop and frisk system where to see somebody on the street that may look illegal, and they're going to be harassed until they find their paperwork, whatever like that. Because you just can't just round people up and thinking they're illegal by looking at them, or you're going to have to do some. That's a system.
That's actually pretty simple. You just catch them on the hiring process or on the tax process or any input into government services. That catches them every time. But I don't believe you can go and pick people randomly. I think that you were talking about the random frisk search. I think that's totally illegal. That's not right.
But that's what it's going to lead to.
That's an assumption that it's going to lead to.
I know it's an assumption, but history has told us that that's what's going to happen.
Well, what do they say about assumptions?
Yeah, assumption, but
I'm going to say assumptions are just that. I think that there's still a reasonable ground in there, but I like a lot of them. I don't like some of the I'll call it the soft stuff in there, but the hardcore stuff about cutting down these departments, I'm all for it. Limiting this government, bringing it down. You were talking about bringing it back to the people. That's right. How that happens.
Well, I agree to a certain extent that some part of the government that we can look at that part. So that's probably the sliver agreement that I have on this one. That government is too big. We can look at people being departmentalized. There is a lot of those. So I can see a slightly agreement on that. So we're starting to slightly agree on certain things. That's how we're supposed to do it here at the third side convo, right?
I love it. I love it.
Or be a protester like me.
Or be a protester, but overall, this whole plan is it's putting us back, and I think that where we need this country, since this country is changing, is ahead to the future plans, because this was developed in 1981 and it's been going on, and so they just kind of added more to it. So it's not a future based conversation.
I think we also said that a lot of those people that put it together were ones that have left the so-called circle. Right. So that says a lot, that they're moving in maybe a different direction than that particular group, or we'll say the Republican Party is in general. There's always hardcore, far on each side of that. But I think that really was what you said was really prominent. That group is kind of eased out, and they're trying to come back in and take that power back or control. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think what it was trying to do, I believe, is like you said, it started in 1980, where they would put together policy recommendations for a person to come in and take over. And again, what we're going to do later on after the DNC happens, I want to actually have a show where we look at the Democratic platform. Okay, would be a good idea. Ted, it's good to have you back.
Right.
Well,
that's modern technology.
Hey, you're in a cabin in Wisconsin, Ted. What are you supposed to do? You're in a cabin, right?
Tell parents about their children wanting to select their own gender. The point is, the schools are not recommending them doing that. The schools are trying to promote acceptance and tolerance, They're not telling the kids to do it, but everybody thinks the schools are out there with the scalpels and the gowns and ready to cut up kids and make them, whatever they want to be. And it's not the case. So I think the real question is when something like Project 25 comes up, what are you afraid of? Why do you think you have to have these policies? Why do you think it has to be man and woman only? Why? Why does Christianity have to be central to government policy? Why?
Okay, well, that's a perfect place. We're going to take our first break. We're going to start with Larry when we come back, but we've got to see from our sponsors right now. We'll be right back in 1 minute.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
I'm so happy that actually Tiberius is actually his voice is broken. We're going to have him come over that commercial and do it.
Yeah.
Larry, what is your thought? I mean, it definitely has a huge Christianity view to this, right? I mean, and certainly, do you have any special thoughts on that there's a way that they can do that, or is that what's your view?
No, I don't have any problem with religion in people's lives. I just don't like the fact that the government may on occasion decide that this is what people should accept. And I don't think the government has ever done that. So I'm fine with religion, Christianity, family being strong. All of those things are what made this country what it is today. And places that are taking that what we are today down, pretty much are on the left and the right coasts at this point. So that's where we are.
Ted, I know you want to respond to that. I mean, does Larry have a point there that we're not focusing
the left
on
and right coast are what's taking this country down? Really? Wow.
It seems like we lost him. His squirrel's not working.
And they worship God, but there's 3 or 4 of them in a marriage. How are we gonna deal with that? And it's God first, so, but it's only 3 in a marriage. Is that gonna be okay?
Why do you have to make this the platform for what is happening in an election when you've taken an obviously conservative Christian organization that says they want to see these things happen, and now we're debating whether or not those things should happen or not? That's what the ballot is for. Okay, if there are enough people that are like this and the family and the strong Christian nation, then they're going to elect the person they want to elect. It is very, very clear to me that we have 2 different sets of future views, and I'm not in favor of the one that, even though it's on the right side sometimes, it still isn't what we need to have for this country. And so
the thing is that it's not in the Constitution. The name is separation of church and state, except the founders never wanted a national religion. They believed in all religions. That's why freedom of religion is so strong. Exactly. All religions. So the separation of church and state, I think, is sacred. And when you talk about this thing, eliminates that, and that's scary.
It doesn't.
It assumes that that's what's going to happen. And again, those are all just tenements or potential things based on, but most of that stuff never flies. Most of these things never get through. I'm not, like I said, I don't care about people's bedroom. I don't care about people's religion. That's yours. Knock yourself out. I do care about what people are doing to our structures that allow us all to share or have those faiths and beliefs equally. And right now, when you've got the government's overrunning a lot of things that is totally never meant to do, and if somebody can tell me one particular government agency that does a good job financially with results and in a good time frame, I would love to know which one that one is.
Well, here's one for you. The governor of Louisiana wants the Ten Commandments and biblical scriptures in classrooms.
Just one.
Is that a good one?
I don't talk about Louisiana. I'm talking about the federal government.
Oh.
One agency, just one.
I thought
one agency that takes care of people,
that does it financially responsible on a timely basis, effectively.
Well, you just got rid of a government everywhere.
There's no such
You
thing.
just got rid of state governments like that. But I can see
they evolve away from what their true purpose is to becoming the entity that everything must serve. And this Project 2025, if it were put in place, it would be its own entity that everyone would have to serve. And I don't think that that's good for
Well, there are like an agency, but there are a lot of people in the government that may help the government run. There's a lot of I say mostly women that actually make this government work because they do the dirty work that doesn't get behind the scenes. The people on the legislature, the people who runs the staff, and people who are running the staff, getting the talking points ready for everybody else. There's a lot of people in the government that actually work and work hard, and it's not seen. Even like the smaller agencies, like TSA, they're getting paid one of the lowest paid agencies out there, but they're protecting our country. And
I didn't say there's no spot for government. I think government's there. I think it's too big and it's too inefficient doing things.
So there are agencies out there, and they work on a budget. They work on a smaller budget than anybody else, and they still get the job done with their budgets.
Well, Ed, I can give you an example. It was in Michael Lewis's book. It was about an engineer in the Atomic Energy Commission of the United States, federal agency. There was a atomic waste plant outside Colorado, and they had to dismantle it. This takes 20 years. It costs billions and billions of dollars. He looked it over, said, you know what? There's ways to do it. He took it down in 4 years, and he saved about $15 billion. There are experts in the government who know what they're doing. And a lot of them work for the government and do good jobs. When you say all agencies, it gets a little crazy.
Well, when I say all agencies,
it's a little crazy. You got to siphon them out.
The amount in that agency is totally unnecessary, and there are good people, absolutely. And
now there's good people.
But you think about what's the biggest employer in the world right now?
The biggest employer?
Disney. No, just kidding.
We would think it's so inefficient. And my thing is that the more we give them leverage, the more they take from us. And whether you want to have the women's rights or whatever particular viewpoint you have, we all lose that because what they say, tolerance. Aristotle, I think, said tolerance is the dildo that allows intolerance to pass, type of a thing.
Tolerance is the what? I'm sorry, I missed.
I know one system that is the most wasteful, and everybody all kind of agree, is the Congress and the senators and the legislature meetings. All those guys, they're one of the biggest wastes of money that we can think of. They recently had a thing on refrigerators. Are you kidding me? The freedom of
stoves and
refrigerators,
Cokes, and just things that are just.
I mean, that's the biggest. You want some of the biggest waste. But putting in Project 25, what it would do is it's going to take away what they're talking about, swiping a whole bunch of people out of the government that doesn't need it. They need to take their time and look to see who is doing the dirty work, who's not doing the work. Just don't come in on 180 days and start wiping people out. That's ridiculous. People got pensions, people got stuff, and you're talking about wiping them out and coming in 180 days and wiping these people out. You have to do your time, your research.
We would know that it couldn't happen like that. They can't do anything in any length of time. So whatever they decide to do, we probably all would agree it isn't going to happen for a whole.
All right. I need to hear from Larry. Larry,
Sorry, Larry.
Does it seem like there's a little more maybe paring down or efficiency in private enterprise versus government? I mean,
I totally agree with that. In the private sector, the capitalist private sector, which we all know and love, is going to outdo anything that anybody in the government could ever possibly do. Government's role should be very limited, and it's to protect things like life, safety, foreign affairs, and so forth. And getting into the middle of all the things that the government gets into now and overregulates, just like California does now.
Yeah, of course, California. Yeah,
it is.
Right.
It is. I'll give you one example.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay, if I go to work in California for one day and then I leave, you know that California taxes me for my income because I was physically in California, even though I'm not a resident?
Did you know that it's exactly true? When baseball players come in and they're making $3 million a year, those 3 days or 6 days they play in California, they do pay state income tax, the state of California. You're absolutely right. As they do in Florida. We don't know if that's Florida, as they do in Texas, as they do in Wisconsin. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, state income tax. Wow.
Making money in the state.
And
making money in the state, you got to pay the taxes. If they have state taxes, that's just the state's rules.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You make money here. The state says you're using our roads, using our water, using our electricity. So don't you think you should pay your fair share?
Right.
Or a share?
Hey, look at the guy who had a business in California.
Okay, we're going to have to take another break again. But when we come back, I would like somebody to explain to me what this whole civil service thing is. And I know Don and Larry and our attorney might be able to say something on this. But I'd like to know, why can't federal workers be fired? I just would like to know that if they goof up, because I know that people here, I get fired by clients constantly. I mean, it happens. Okay. So what we're going to do is, what I'd like you to do is check us out on Facebook. Please like us on Facebook, subscribe on, YouTube, because we just got to keep this thing going. We got to have regular people be able to sit down and have a conversation like this without naming names. It is wonderful. We'll be right back.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today, and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810. The Typia Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator rights. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now. Get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com.
All right, now we're back. And so one of the biggest things about Project 2025 was they went through every different department of the government and they said, we need to really think about this. So Larry, what is the legal aspect as to why federal employees can keep their jobs no matter what happens?
Without getting into all the details of the civil service and all the things that are necessary to either fire or remove somebody for incompetence, the bottom line is that over time, the people that could be affected have changed and would like to see people not get fired. They want to do everything possible to keep their jobs, whether they're good or bad. In the private sector, if you're not productive, you're gone. In the government sector, if you're not productive, you get promoted. And that's what I have a problem with. I think
that's not true either.
Well, it's not true, man. It's not true.
No,
that's not true. Okay, I'm going to jump in real quick. I think that the civil service issue goes back to New York and Boss Tweed and Tammany Hall. Basically, these people were appointees by a political leader, a mayor in New York. And basically, these people, if the new mayor came in, he would fire them and bring his own guys in. Well, that's what they wanted to protect. The person was doing a good job, but because he didn't vote for the next governor, he got fired. That was the protections they want for people who work in civil service, because they want these people to have the idea of work for the public, not for a person or a politician. That's the whole point.
I've never heard it explain that. Hey, Ted, I appreciate that. I've never heard that explained like that.
Come on.
And
go to history class once in a while.
All right, so let's go back into the private sector, and companies change all the time. They get bought, they get sold, they go
Yep.
out of business, management
They
changes.
lay people off indiscriminately. Absolutely.
All right.
Oh, okay, so from now on, we shouldn't bother with letting companies make those decisions, whether
didn't
it's
say that.
indiscriminate.
I didn't
Okay,
say
so
that,
well,
but when you take a company like Tesla or SpaceX, that Elon Musk guy, he's such a great guy. How about the $6 billion of California state subsidies given to him to build his factories and develop his companies? He's talking about leaving because he's such a crybaby about Newsom.
So
My God!
So
Oh,
exactly
Texas.
who gave him those subsidies? Wouldn't that be the California legislature?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
They promoted the
We're
company.
saying that
He hired
they're
jobs.
complaining about
He's
this
developed good
legislation.
cars. He's
They're not
developed a
complaining to them
rocket.
because the money they gave them, and they don't like it because he didn't do what they wanted.
The plant's
It
not
should.
moving.
That's
The money that goes to the plants. But I'm going to say something about the.
Okay, we
about
gotta have
the,
Don
the
talk
government.
about that. Don, you were a civil servant, so Don,
I
go
was
ahead
civil
and put your
service.
things
I
in
was,
there.
I was a union president for 9 years. So every department in the government, they have a form called the table of penalties of what you have to get fired. There's like a 28-page, and they have all the table of penalties of how you can get fired, how you cannot get fired. Now, as being a union person, I had seen people get fired for no reasons, but it takes there's a step process in it. That's the part that is hard. But there's a step process to be in it. People get fired. I see people get fired left and right because they follow the penalties. So if you cross one of those penalty lines, you're automatically into you might go into litigation, you might go into arbitration, whatever. But people do get fired if they're not doing their job. So it's a misconception.
It just takes a little bit of
a
time.
while.
All right.
It takes a while.
Okay,
They do
believe
get
it or
fired.
not, we've been having so much fun here. We got to kind of go to closing remarks. So we're going to be on the 30-second. We're going to be on the 30-second hourglass. All right. So here we go. So we're going to start. Ed, we're going to start with you. Give me what you liked most or didn't like about Project 2025. Go.
Well, I like the most is that they want to get the government reduced, and I'm in favor of not cutting people wholesale, nothing like that, but finding out what's efficient, as Don said, what's not, thinning that down, getting it lean and mean like any other business, which saves us all tax money, which can be used for different things. What I don't like about it is they get into, again, some of those vaguer things about sexual preferences, marriage, and all that. That's not their business. I don't think that's necessary. It's not the government's business either, and they need to keep themselves out of it. Sorry.
All right, Don, give me your thoughts.
Well, I'm kind of going to. I like the part of them going into government, looking to see what doesn't work. But they can't stop by with the civil service workers. They need to start with the top, like in the Congress people, to start with that area, because that's the biggest. That's one of the biggest areas they have to work out. Trim that down. Trim how they're paid and getting extra bonuses and stuff like that. Trim that down first. Then you can start going to other people. So I don't believe this.
Okay, Larry, project. What'd you like? What'd you love?
Anything that has to do with making government smaller and more efficient.
Thank you. And you saved us some time. So Ted,
What about me?
You don't get to use
I don't
it.
get to
Go,
speak?
Ted.
I don't get to speak?
Yes.
What I
Ted.
like about it is that if you get partisan control, you take control of the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Department of Commerce, the Federal Communications Commission, and the Federal Trade Commission. So let's say Kamala gets elected. Let's say somebody gets elected. Let's say a certain party gets in power in both houses. Can that person pack the FBI and the DOJ with former Black Panthers and put bounties on police officers who shoot innocent people? Can you put a controlling board of Earth first in the Department of Interior and tell people that they have to rip up their land and give it back to Earth?
Yeah, right.
Could that happen?
And we're gonna. Hey, Ted. Get rid of that guy. Okay.
Yeah. So it's partisan control. If that's what you want, it goes the other way too.
It happens as if we don't have partisan control right now. But, journalists, all these other people, they're all going to be put in jail. I mean, look, we've had a two-party system for 170 plus years, okay? The world's okay. We're going to be fine because we've got people like y'all that are willing to come on a show and have fun. And all of the bad stuff goes through emails. Most everybody doesn't see it. This is a wonderful show. Thank you, Ted, for coming in from Wisconsin on your vacation. I'm here from England. The rest of y'all, we will see you next time on the Third Side Convo. Bye.